So in this video, I kind of want to look at the workflow around the work I'm doing to extend the little web server that I've got running on my PiDP11. For those of you that don't know what the PiDP11 is, it's a reproduction of the 1170, the original DEC 1170 front panel at half scale. Here's a picture of the assembled kit versus the real thing. So if you just search for PiDP11, you'll find this web page, and it makes for a really interesting read. My kit's been assembled and it's been running for a week or two here at home, and I've been playing with it. And I was kind of looking for things for it to do. And in the forum, I came across a little web server written for it. And took that code, extended it, been having a lot of fun with it. And this is a web page actually being surfed off of my little PiDP11 here at home. You can see the URL. The URL up here is my blog site, shadowtron.com, and if you just go to port 81, that happens to be where I have the machine living. We can actually refresh the page here, and it's currently being surfed or served up off the little machine. The blinking lights do all kinds of fun stuff when I run it. So this is a page I threw up, and it's just been something I've been playing with and exploring in the forum. And I kind of wanted to show you the process I'm going through of extending the C code and having a play with the machine. So we've got a few things going on here. I have a terminal session opened. I'm actually logged in as root here. It's just easiest for this to work as root because I've got permissions to all the folders I need on the machine. I just got a folder here at the root named WebServer, and inside of that is the source code for the little web server, the HTTPD.C being the current version. Actually, we can get rid of a.out. I don't need that file in there. I'm using FileZilla as my tool to actually modify the files on the disk. FileZilla has a mode where you can actually remotely edit files. It'll FTP it down, let you edit it, and then FTP it back up when you save it. It's a lot easier for me to work this way than trying to use like the Vi editor here in the console. This has been covered in a previous video. And finally, we've got Notepad++ here where I've actually got the source code open. So I made a couple of tweaks here to it. Let's go ahead and save the source code. Remember, this editing is occurring on my local machine. FileZilla being the bridge. When I save this, FileZilla will say, hey, there's been a change to the file. Do you want to re-upload it to the other end? This just uploaded it up to the 211 BSD image here running on my PiDP11. If we do an ls, actually let's do an ls-l, we'll see that a new copy was sent up at 8:45 this morning. Let's go ahead and compile it just to see if I've broken anything. And at least from the compiler standpoint, I haven't. I am using a make file here. That was dumb. Make file. To drive this, the all here will compile it. The install will give me a directory of the file so I can see the time date stamp. It moves it up to where it needs to be for execution, and then show me the time date stamp up there. This routine simply copies the current source over to the web server. The web server content is var www. And finally, this really isn't necessary here. To make changes to the inetd daemon, you can send a kill hup command to its PID. And in my machine, that PID typically comes up as 70. And early in, I was doing a lot of playing here. This kill really isn't necessary in here. The intent of this edit session is to start counting the number of files sent. Just because I'm curious. What we'll find in the source code here is it does a lot of parsing and finally gets down here where it actually opens up the file to be served. And we'll just be making a call to this routine here to count the number of files sent. You know, on my front web page, if we go back and look at it, this is going to send 3 files. It's going to send the actual HTML for the page, and then it's going to send these 2 photos up. And those requests happen as separate sessions. The HTTPD code gets spun up 3 times, one for the master web page and one for each photo. The inetd daemon is driving that. So in this pass, I'm just going to count the number of raw files to send up. So the idea here is I'll have a file on disk on the PiDP11. I'll open that up. I'll read the numeric value out. I'll increment it. I'll write it back. There's probably a much better way to do this, but this is the approach I'm going to take. As always, I'm going to steal code here. It's just easier to do. So we're going to open up, and we'll call it file count. So this will just be a file that's in the actual content the web server sends up. We're going to open it for read. We're going to do an if. Actually, I need to change that variable. So FD is a file type pointer that you can open up and point to a file. FD is not null. It actually got a file open. Let's do an F, scanf. Boy, it's been a long time, so apologies for my extremely rusty C skills here. They are really rusty. Why can't I get a hold of this? Oh, wonderful. I'm going to have Adobe hang up on me again. Adobe likes to hang up occasionally on me here. Why aren't you taking focus? Well, we're going to kill you if we can. Let's go ahead and close the program. I've had the Adobe Reader do that to me multiple times. Let's surf around, find the document I wanted to show you. It's living over here on my E drive. It's under manuals version 3. So these manuals are posted up on GitHub, and they are a collection. I didn't really want the doc version of it. I'm going to go back to the PDF version if it'll open and actually work, and it's not going to. So it gets so old. Adobe is giving me nothing but problems on this machine. Absolutely nothing but problems. Can I kill it? Close it. Let's I think version 9 has been able to successfully open it, display it. There it is. Okay. Sorry for that convoluted path. This is a collection of the Manual 3 pages. I said it's available up on GitHub if you really want to look for it. And rather than use the man pages, where I could do, I could do here on the machine a man f scanf, and I could read everything I needed to know here about scanf on the machine. It's just been more convenient for me. It's just easier for my workflow to actually have everything collected here. And if we search the Adobe document for fscanf, we'll find some information that it hopefully is here. There it is. So in the PDF, here's our man page for fscanf. So we're looking for fscanf. So this is what I was looking for. The first entry is the stream that I want to read. I thought that was the case. That's consistent. Format. Boy, it's been a long time. I think we're going to want to pull I'm just going to go the route I know. I'm going to cheat here and pull a string out of it. And I believe I need to pass it the address or the string variable I want that to go into. We're going to create a little character array here. What to name it? Pretty poor name. Value. It doesn't need to be really big. That 20 is going to be overkill. It is going to be a long value. And we'll bring that into value. I'm going to go ahead and search over here for A to L. Let's see if we can find a page for A to L. So A to L converts ASCII to numbers. I'm going to use A to L to to convert this to a long. Actually, there's no reason to keep the file open at this point, so let's do an F close. FD, we've read the string out. We're going to do count equals ASCII to long, and that's going to be from the variable value. We're going to increment it by 1. And again, apologies for my poor C coding here. I'm rusty and way out of practice. I then want to reopen that file for write. And I'm going to write right over the top of it. I'm not going to append to it, because I just want the raw count there. Again, we'll do an if FD just to make sure it actually opened it. Otherwise, there's just no reason to move along. We're going to file printf. We're going to send that to the file FD. We're going to print out a long integer followed by a new line, value. We're going to F close that again. And we should be done. That should be all I need to do to actually do this. So I'm going to just kind of review it. We have a file pointer. We have a place to store the long count. We have a string to get the current value out. We're going to open up this file count file here for read. We're going to scan in its value. We're going to close it. We're going to convert the string we read into a long and count. There's a typo. We're going to increment the value of count. We're then going to open the same file back up for write. We're not going to append to it. We'll just write over that first line in it. And if it actually got opened, we write the value out as a long decimal or a long integer and close the file. So I'm just going to write this here. FileZilla says, hey, it changed. Should I FTP it back up to the box? And let's go ahead and make and see how many. Function count file sent, undefined function. Is it 1? That's at line 67. What doesn't it like about that? We're going to read from FD, not FS, so that was just a typo. This is a, C can be really, still didn't like something. Oh, I didn't FTP it up. This is the trap in this workflow. I actually need to send the edits up before I make it. It can be a little terse sometimes getting an error message back to what's really going on. So that did compile. It's not going to do anything at this point because it's not been plumbed in. Let's go down here to where we actually open the file to be sent out of the web server. Let's paste that in there, and that hopefully will do what we want. So I actually want to count the number of files sent. I'm going to move this line down to here. This isn't the count of files requested to be sent, it's the count of files sent. So a file is requested, we attempt to open it for read. If it doesn't open, we then basically throw out a 404. We write that the file wasn't found and we exit here. If we get past this exit, then I want to say there was a file to be sent. So let's increment it there. Saw there was a change. Hopefully I didn't break it. Let's go up to the web server root here for a minute. I need to create a file for this to actually write into and preload it. The way this is written, if it can't find the actual file to log to, the way this is written, if it can't open this file, it's just never going to do anything. So we need to pre-create this file. So I'm going to pre-create it just using vi because it's quick. www file count. I'm going to insert the value 0. I'm going to hit escape, write and quit. should now have that www file count. The problem here is we need to be able to write to that file as well, and I haven't dug really deep about what the proper permissions are here, but I'm just going to do what I've done with the other files. I'm going to set it to 666 www file count. If we do an ls minus l again, we'll see that I changed the permissions on that file so that no matter where you're coming in from, you can actually read or write that file. Let's go back to the web server folder. WebServer, it'd be nice if, no, I don't want to install a Windows 10 update at the moment, stupid machine. So we know we built it, so let's go ahead and install it. And you can see here that it basically come back and said, your current executable is compiled at this date time. Let's move it up, and let's just look at what got moved up, and they match. These should always match. I actually had an issue early in where they didn't match, and move wasn't reporting an error. But now we're good. Now we should be able to go back to the web page, and either it'll serve something up or it won't. Let's go to var www, and let's cat www file count and see if it's got a 3 in it. Car cat www file count, and it's got a beautiful negative number in it, so I've got an issue of some sort. What did I do wrong here? So obviously I have something wrong. I haven't worked with fscanf for so long. Let's go back to the man page. It's just amazing the things you forget. Stream format pointer. If I use a character array, that should right there just pass the pointer to it. I don't think I need to actually address at that first byte in it. An ordinary character, not percent, which might match them. The control string usually contains conversion specifics, which are used to blanks, tabs, or new lines, which match optional white space in the file. An ordinary character I'm sitting here going, does fscan? A character string is expected. The corresponding argument should be a character pointer pointing to an array. A character is large enough to accept a string with a terminating 0. Input field is terminated by a space character or a new line. We had a new line in the file. I did add it. I did output a new line when I wrote it. So I've deleted that line out. I'm going to insert a 0 again. Well, I think I'm going to insert a 0. Insert a 0 and a new line. Escape. Right quit. Oh, shoot. Escape, right quit. So there was 2 lines output. But yeah, 3 characters should be correct. Okay. The clumsy fingers are starting. So it's got a 0 in it, and it's got a new line. I'm doing something fundamentally stupid here. It is a string. Floating point numbers, the next field is converted accordingly. Yep, so LD would get me along. I'm actually curious here. Let's just tell it to scan an LD directly into the value of count. I don't think I needed to do the string. I don't think I needed the string here at all, thinking about this. So we're going to pass it the address account. We're going to read out a long decimal from that file, and we're going to close it. Let's just see what that does. I'm just curious. Back to, close this out. Back to FileZilla. Send the file up. Let's see. Variable undefined function count file sent line 74. Oh, there was the actual issue right there. Huh. So I was telling it to print out a long decimal here, but the variable I passed to it was the string variable. It wasn't the actual long variable. And I'm guessing that's why that blew up. But let's change this to count. So that was just me being stupid code-wise. So count actually is a long. We're going to print out a long integer. Let's save that. That most likely is the bug. It's compiled. The blinking lights are doing their thing on the machine. I should really get a camera set up so you can see the blinking lights. Go ahead and install it. Timestamps look good. Let me get back to the browser. Let's refresh it here. Let's go to var www. Oops. Let's cat www file count. We ended up with the same thing. That's really interesting. So what fundamental thing am I doing incorrect here? I did... Cat HTTPD.c, pipe to more. Let's go look for the code I've injected here. Yeah, the changes are there. You can see that line's commented out. Fun. Oh, seemingly simple things can just take up your life. This always gets entertaining to tear apart. I'm going to initialize count with an initial value. I'm going to comment this line out. And I'm going to save that and build that, and that'll tell me an interesting piece here. Done. Back to the page. Go ahead and refresh it. Var www cat. Can't remember my own file name. cat www file count. Oh, that's fascinating. So I'm assuming in this variant to see you can initialize a variable here. You know, it didn't blow up syntactically. I don't absolutely know that to be the case. But I'll actually add a line just to, again, it's a compiler in an environment I've done very little with. I'm just going to make sure that is initialized. What I'm expecting here is just to see the value 12345 end up in that output file, because we're not actually doing anything, or we are doing stuff. I think it's actually proved the issue here is probably with the fscanf. Not thinking things through. I do actually believe that syntactically this worked. Intent is to initialize it to something, to not muck with it, and see if we get that something written out here. So it's looking more and more like to me my issue is someplace here. We'll find out. It's been uploaded. Make. And didn't type that. Make install, not syntol. Refresh the page. Something actually happens. Cat www file count. And we should see 12345, and we do. So it's got to be this fscanf is what's giving me issues. So what am I doing wrong with fscanf? Well, I'm sure it's something really stupid and fundamental. Very much the same thing. This case we're inputting strings, and the address of a non-string variable here, I don't know what year is defined as. This is exactly how I believed it should work. Let's just look at another reference. Int A, scanf the value %d into that variable. Scanf is the same way with a file pointer attached. File pointer, constant character string format, and variables. Yeah, I'm not doing anything syntactically wrong there that I'm seeing. That file is open for read. We're going to read from that file and into the address of count. So I'm going to, just out of curiosity, convert this just to a straight int for now, and just see what happens with it as an int. It may be that I'm confusing the formatting here. It did mention in the man page that capital D versus prefixing with an L for long, so maybe something's getting confused there. Seemingly trivial things. Aren't always trivial. You go ahead and refresh. Actually, I didn't. Well, that file had 12345 in it. We saw it here or no, it didn't. This should be interesting. I left whatever that huge negative number was in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. No, that's correct. So I did initialize it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We served 3 files out. Let's go ahead and reset it just because we can. No, that number makes sense. So there's something wrong in how I'm dealing with longs. Double D to delete. Insert a line. Put in 0. Hit enter just so we have a new line on it. Hit escape. WQ to write the file and quit. We can see 0 pages have been served. If we now come up here and we refresh one more time, that count should have bumped up to 3 because there was the core web page and the 2 pictures served up. So as an integer that's working, as a long it's not. You know, am I going to surf up? This is a signed integer, so I can count up to 32,767 pages sent before it's going to roll over to a negative value. I did long just so I could get up to a huge number of pages served. Not that I'm ever going to get there on this machine. I guess this could be made an unsigned value as well, but I'm not going to worry about that. This is good enough for my playing here. G. Would be better, but it is what it is. I'm certainly not worried about beautiful code here or absolute perfection in this. I'm just having fun playing with it, but it is what it is. So at least in my comments, if somebody looked at the source, they go, okay, you recognize your flaw here. But that's fine. So one of the things I'll hit here on again is this collection of man pages I did. And again, if you go up to GitHub and just search 211 BSD, you'll find these have just been really useful for me playing here. Is it searchable? I've done my best to actually capture things well in here. So of course the D is decimal integer. Corresponding argument must be an integer pointer. Numeric field width don't care about. It directly converts. Or legal %F bracket. The conversion characters D, O, and X may be capitalized or preceded with L to indicate a pointer to a long rather than to an int. And double rather than float. And short everything. So syntactically, I believe I had that correct. Why it wasn't working for the long, I really don't know. And I'm not going to care about here. So now the question becomes, how can I count the pages sent? Really, I guess to do that every time, this is going to get interesting. Every time this is invoked. So what happens here, and I've tried to kind of explain this up in the comments here, is the little web server that's been written here is called by inetd. Every time a request is made to my machine to get a page, inetd sees the incoming request on port 81 and goes, oh, there's something the user wants to do. I'm going to invoke an instance of the HTTPD, so it runs the HTTPD, it plumbs the standard in and standard out for this program to the sockets that were created to the internet connection here. And then from that on the standard in, you can read in, okay, here's basically the string that was passed to me or the information. Let me parse it to figure the file out and send the file back. So every time HTTPD is ran, it's a file and not an actual web page. At least that's my understanding of how this works. And that seems to be true in practice. And let's step back and kind of prove that. So we know here that our count is 3. You'll see a couple of things happen here. When I refresh the page, you'll see the back. I'm pointing here with my finger. Sorry, you can't see it. You'll see the text on the back of the page will refresh instantly. And you'll see these two photos kind of come down in parallel. It'll draw, it'll draw, it'll draw, it'll draw. And that's because there's still 2 instances of HTTPD running on the machine, each one sending these files upstream to my web browser. And you should see that happen here. Yep. So we'll do that again. Maybe I'll stretch this up a little bit bigger so you get a little bit better view with the 2 pictures. That's about as good as I'm going to get. And I'll refresh it here, and you should see each one of these kind of draw in or leave part of one, part of the other. In this case, this one drew in the middle of that one. We'll do it another time. I think we're going to be up to 12 files served. Actually, that one first and this one. What's happening here is for each one of these files, an instance of HTTPD is being ran and dealing with that single file. And that's why I ended up doing file counts here. If we now cat this, we should see 12. Because this page has been requested 4 times, and each time it's requested, the HTTP or the HTML sources send up, and then the request for each of the 2 pictures. So I'm a little bit of a loss here. If I can come up with a way in the HTTP source to actually count the number of total pages served. And I don't know that I can do that. That's really kind of happening. Well, it's not even really happening in the INetD daemon either. Let's jump down here and send just another simple photograph up. So I just requested a photo from the little web server from a link on it, and there it is. And this should have now bumped up to 13. And it did. This was the 13th file send up. How I convert this to actual pages served, it's really not coming to me at this point, how I'm going to do that. There are actually 3 log files I'm mucking with here in system. Boy, that log file is getting pretty big. If we tail www log, this is really just kind of sending. There was a GET request come into the system. In this case, there was no file specified, so we sent back HTML. There was another GET request come in for 4 JPEG, and we sent it. Another GET request for the PDP11 JPEG, and we sent it. And then the request we did for that photo from the deck manual. So we can kind of see the sequence happening here. Sometimes these get a bit interleaved as things are going on. So that's giving me information on the raw file sent. But if we look at this www line, let's tail it. It's a huge file, www line log file. It's actually capturing in it each one of the strings that's coming into the HTTPD code line, and at some point in here, this should have everything in it. Man, tail, I need to see a few more lines. I'm sure I can give it the number of lines, plus or minus lines. Tail, let's do 20 lines. Get the bottom 20 lines off the file. Oh, what did I do wrong? tail. Do I need to do a plus sign? Plus 20 www line. Well, that certainly wasn't what I wanted. Oh, it just gets so interesting trying to remember an OS you haven't used forever. Tail copying begins at from the beginning, or oh, I need to do negative 20. Stupid. Tail, last 20 lines of the file. Start there. So there's the full tail from the last 20 lines of the file. I output a set of asterisks every time it's fired up, just to kind of break the work it did apart. And what we missed before was the get. So there's a get command going to be ran here. But again, this is file level and not web page level. Again, there was a get done here. Of course there was. This log doesn't have a whole lot of value beyond it was just something I was playing with to see what I could do. Well, maybe I've prattled on long enough here in this. Should be a previous video if you look on my YouTube channel here that kind of talks about setting up FileZilla to do this remote editing. I'll actually kind of wrap this up. Why is it asking for another save? Oh, I put comments in. Just so you see this in action. I've got an FTP connection onto my PiDP11. Let's go to that web server folder. And there's the source code we've been editing. And the way I'm doing the remote editing is I've set up, this was covered before, but I'll hit it briefly here. If we look at remote editing here, I have associated a number of files that get FTP'd up to programs on my local computer. So if a C file is requested this way, it'll edit it in Notepad++. I've got a bunch of different programming environments on this machine. And natively, the C files are actually connected to Micro C Pro. Anyhow, in FileZilla, I made that connection. We have a C file. We can do view edit. What you should see here is it will FTP that onto my local computer. Oh, excuse me, open it, Notepad++. So I had a previous version of it on the machine here. I'm going to say discard whatever you have locally on my computer, download a fresh version, and bring it up in the editor. And you can see that happened here. We'll make a change to the file even though we delete it, just so it writes something back out again. Hey, you edited the file. Do you want to send it back down? Yes, I do. It's now been FTP'd back down, and we could of course, make it here. Anyhow, that's kind of the workflow. This is explained a little better, I think, in another video up on my YouTube channel. Hopefully you found this kind of entertaining. If not, of course, you can yell at me in the comments. Like I pay attention. Anyhow, we'll talk soon.